Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this solution talk. My name is Charlotte Fernandez. I'm the research coordinator of the Institute of Governance and Public Policies of the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. And I will follow you during this less than 1 hour with very interesting presentation about governance and innovative solutions on public service delivery. Since we have very short time, I would like to just go through the presenters of today and introduce them very briefly. So we will start with Yunive Moreno from the city of Guadalajara, Mexico, where she's the project manager of the project called Visor Urbano. Then we will go with Dr. Ignacio Martínez from the consultancy company Ineco, where he's the CIO and IT Digital Transformation Director. Then Nicole Huber from the city of Heidelberg, and followed with Antonio Ondiviela from Microsoft. So as you can see, we will have a mixture of public sector and private companies. Then will join us Artur Serra, who is the Deputy Director of the ITOSCAT Foundation. Patrice Vergrit, who is the Chairman of the Institut pour la Ville Durable and also the Mayor of the city of Dunkerque. Maddy Kali from Mastercard. And at last but not least, Tracy Cook from the city of Toronto. So with no further delay, let's start with Mrs. Yunive Moreno. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Yunive. I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico. And I will talk about Visor Urbano, which is one of the main projects of the government of the city, which is about tackling corruption in urban development through open data, the case of Visor Urbano. Where I would like to talk about a little bit of Guadalajara, just to give you a context, is located on the west of Mexico, and is the second largest metropolis of the country, in about 2,000 kilometers area, and a population of 4 million divided in 9 municipalities. So also is known as the Silicon Valley of Mexico, is one main technological hub in the country. So Visor Urbano, what is Visor Urbano? It's a digital platform for territorial management that will help us to consult the urban development plans of the city and do governmental tramits according current regulations, which means we put the technology at service of the needs of the city to solve corruption in urban development. For many years, Guadalajara has grown with corruption and giving briberies to the public officials. And what we want to do with this platform is to load the digital tramits. And our main objectives are to provide fast and transparent channels to tackle corruption in the process of obtaining the construction permits and business licenses. Second one, ensure a sustainable and equitable urban development by empowering cities with open data, and simplification and systematization of process relating to the urban development. And our main basis is the same as the open government pillars, which is citizen participation, transparency, accountability, and innovation. So the structure, what we are doing is going to the on-site procedures to online procedures, which means, for example, the on-site procedures, waiting lines, bureaucracy, restricted hours, waste of time, and waste of time in transportation and paper expenses, which all these factors is like a really corruption fertile field. And versus the online procedures without the need of waiting, and it's available all days, the save of time, easy access, and less cost. This for the city means less corruption and less discretionality at the time or making a permit on the urban and business licenses. The architecture that we open a lot of information that for many years was in some areas of the government without sharing between. So the cadastral, which is in a SQL server, geodatabase, then the geographic information and other about 7 municipalities database, we organize that information to one GeoServer, and then the cartographic viewer make the analysis of what is permitted and what not. So we eliminate the human factor of the decision making, and the platform use algorithms to detonate the determination permits. So once the platform analyzes the property that you want to open a business or make a construction, then you are allowed to make the permit. So this is our main value, that we are avoiding the human factor, which for many years was corrupted or with discretionality permitting use issues. This is the main view of the platform is visorurbano.com. It's a map of Guadalajara, the urban area. We have about more than 10 layers of information about infrastructure, databases, permits in real time located in each property of the city. And then you choose the property and give you all the information about that uses that you can do for a business or for a construction. You can upload an informative paper just to know what you can do. So in a economic side, it's also help us to understand what the citizens wants to do in each zone of the city. So how does Visorurbano tackle corruption in urban development? Well, the digital procedures avoid discretionality, as I say, from public officials, which is one of the main issues in Latin America and in other parts of the world. Fighting the asymmetry of information between public officials and citizens. They have the same information and they use the same platform. The public official has a back office, but it's the same information that the citizens can access. Now the citizens will fully understand the requirements prior to initiate the process. Public information is available and easy to see, to understand, is updated in real time, and this has decreased the perception of corruption from the citizens in our government. Well, this is one of the main results, all the data that we have in real-time visualization. And to finalize my introduction, the next steps are replicate in other cities. It's developed in open source, and we are sharing our knowledge to implement this in other cities in Mexico and Latin America. So here's my info. Thank you very much. Nunca vi la pantalla.
So, Ignacio?
Well, thank you very much. Okay. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm Ignacio Martínez, and I will give a brief introduction with 5 minutes, because it's the time that we have, regarding the administration in the next decade, talking about Public Service 4.0. So, first, a little bit of context. Well, in 2013, in the Obama administration, there was a huge effort in creating this Obamacare program, and at the end it was a portal that was created during 2 years and a half, investing like $800 million, and at the end, the day of the launch, it was a disaster. So the important thing here is that they learned the lesson and they changed everything from that very moment, and they created 2 organizations, one for creating, for solving digital problems, and the other one for tackling all the digital talent and taking that into the administration. So that's where everything began to move forward in the administration regarding digital all-in vet. More context, we can see here something more recent, which is the initiative in France from Macron, which is investing a lot of money and a lot of effort into AI. So France is investing around $1,500 million, 12 million euros, into AI for the government, along with 500 million from private companies as well in the next 5 years. So it's going to put the administration on top of everything, all those efforts regarding artificial intelligence. And last, here we do have Thomas, which is the former president of Estonia, which is the most digitalized country in the world. It's a good place to look into it like a mirror. It's, truth be told, it's a small country. It's the size of the Netherlands, and it's just 1.3 million inhabitants. But they are very far away, very far ahead into digitalization. You can open a company just with your mobile phone and do a lot of different things without having to be there. So this is another good example of how things have to be done in the future. If we talk about technology, now we do have this, what is called the technology vortex or the technology confluence, which a lot of different emerging technologies are working together to create more value than it's alone could offer. For example, artificial intelligence. It has been a while around, but now with cloud computational possibilities, there are a lot of things that can be done that weren't possible before. So this is another context that is really important in order to reach what is going to be this escalating value scale, that we are going to be able to optimize the current services or the current delivery of services throughout digital transformation in the cities, in the government, in regional administrations, at every level. This is going to evolve into putting all those solutions, well, all those different services digitalized together into bigger solutions that will solve problems in a more effective way. And at the end, we are going to be able to anticipate the necessities of the citizens so as to reach what is called 4.0 services, in which we are going to be able to say, for example, when a child reaches the age of school, before the father have to do anything, to give them the information that they need, what the schools are good for them, and they can solve all the problems just with administration being ahead of them, right? But then again, this raises a lot of problems, of course, or a lot of challenges. So, for example, that of cybersecurity. This is going to be directly related to the more digitalized an administration is, the more problems with cybersecurity we'll have. That's for certain. That's inevitable. And also, we do have another problem regarding the law. This is Vernon Hill, which created Metrobank, which is one of the initiatives that Estonia took some principle from. And talking about digital information, data of the customers or the citizens in a case of a city, he said that you don't have to ask for any information that is not going to be used at least by 2 areas of the bank. So that's what Estonia did, and is what everybody wants in the government, that they don't ask you a lot of information twice, so just being requested information once. That goes against the GDPR, the new data law, so we have to solve that very problem, which is the law tells us that just ask for the information that we are going to use. So how can we solve those problems? Well, my vision is that maybe with some of the emerging technologies, in this case blockchains, we can solve all the problems that we have stated before. For example, privacy with transparency, and also cybersecurity. And of course, we are going to be able to share the information between all the different actors in the government without any problem with the law, because the users throughout the smart contracts are going to be able to say what information they want to share with each of the different actors. So we just have to ask it once, and then the user will be able to move the information around the different silos of the administration. So, well, thank you very much, everybody. And as a global view, remember, proactive services and blockchain could do the trick at the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Nicole from Heidelberg.
Hello, my name is Nicole Huber. I'm a city director of the city of Heidelberg, and I'm trying to explain you in a short time how we do a smart city transition, digital transition in our city. Heidelberg is located in the south of Germany, and we have 160,000 inhabitants. So it's a rather small city, but with 12 million tourists a year, we're quite well known throughout the whole world. We are a very international city, so as we have 40% of foreign inhabitants in the city, and we have a third of our inhabitants as students, so we're a big university town, and that helps us, of course, to move forward in that digital world, to be forward-thinking also in the administration. We have sister cities all over the world, as you can see here, and it's also cities like Cambridge and Palo Alto with Stanford, and also Montpellier in France, that are cities with a very good and very old university. So we always try to have strategic partnerships with other cities of our size, or maybe even bigger, like Hangzhou. If you see, this is our newest sister city, which is also the Silicon Valley of China, with Alibaba located in Hangzhou. So we're always trying to have strategic partnerships rather than only have our citizens exchange like it was in earlier years. We also have partnerships in the fields of sustainability, like, for example, Energy Cities. Our mayor is for 15 years now the president of Energy Cities. That's the biggest European network in sustainability and climate protection. And being the president of Energy Cities, we're also part of the C40 cities, which is, of course, we're not a big city, but we are specialized in that city, in that aspects of sustainability. We take part in a European program like the Erasmus Plus, and we're also one of the leading cities in implementing the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, in 2025, which is 5 years earlier than all the nations have decided to be finished with the implementation by 2030. We have the Heidelberg Club International, which is a network of 450 ambassadors all over the world, and so we try to really learn from all other countries and to implement the new projects in our small city. And whenever we do something, we always try to do it like with an extra. Like, for example, we have a new city development for 7,000 people. It's an old brownfield area, and we decided 10 years ago to have it as a passive house city, so zero emission standard. So it's not just a new area for new citizens, but it's also passive house. And the other project I was just talking to my colleague from Toronto about is an old area from where the U.S. Army left a few years ago, and we're developing. It's 100 hectares, so it's quite a big area next to Heidelberg. And we're trying to do a smart city from the scratch. So we have been talking to our citizens like over the last 3 years already to implement all smart city and digital technique that we can find to really be a front runner in that field. If you talk about the administration, we have started to build a new department within the administration, the digital department. We also have a new company outside. It's a company 100% city-owned. It's called Digital Agency, but they work together, for example, with a university clinic in Heidelberg, which is one of the 3 big university clinics in Germany, in digital health. So we're trying to have a file for the patients and citizens that all doctors can read, and also the hospital, so you get treated much better and quicker. We have digital pilots in every department in the city administration to find out what we can change and what would the administration work better. And we also have a new Heidelberg Innovation Park, which is also a new commercial area for companies from Heidelberg and the region, and we also have the newest technology there to really be state of the art in that development. And as always, the cities are made of people, which is really important to us. We always try to talk to our people. We have new ways of participation, and this is, I think, the most important part, to always be upfront talking to the citizens to make them explain what you are doing. Thank you very much.
So now we have Jose Antonio from Microsoft.
Hello, good afternoon. And sorry, my photo is not there. I was the first to send it, so I don't know what happened. Well, first of all, I'm not here to sell you anything. I work for Microsoft, but I am very thankful to the organizers because they have invited me to share with you part of my work that I do in my spare time, and making some research on the future of the cities. The idea is how a city could be attractive enough for talented citizens. And this is what I'm trying to find, reading out of books and making some research. And this is what I will try to explain to you in the next minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the beginning of the era of cities. The 18th and 19th centuries were the centuries of empires. Those empires ended in the First World War. After the Second World War, we saw the surge of the countries. So we were living in the era of countries last century. This century is the century of cities. And those cities are competing in a global basis to retain and attract talent. There is a fierce competition, bloodless war, to gain those people, those talented people. And now with the Industry 4.0, it is even tougher because all the non-creative jobs will tend to disappear. So everybody is trying to attract people that are talented, people with creative jobs. And what has been the recipe of the city's prosperity is the recipe of the 3 T's, is technology, technology, technology. In the different industrial revolutions, the first, second, third, now the 4 industrial revolutions. And this technology is attracting the talent. And finally, it's just a question of opening the door, be tolerant enough, okay? So this has been, in my research, the recipe for city prosperity in the past. But now I'm trying to write in my thesis with 2 main objectives. First is to help the citizens. There is 1.7 billion millennials out there trying to choose which is the best city that is fitting their objectives and helping them to realize their potential. And second is to give advice to the authorities on how to create the most attractive city in the world. Not easy. My first conclusion is that the city attractiveness is something made of a rational component and emotional component. The emotional component is the magnetism, and the rational component is the profitability. Okay, what's that? What's the magnetism? I have spent a lot of time trying to make a model of what's making a city attractive from the emotional point of view. This is really hard to model, and honestly, it depends on you or me, or everybody will have a different model. The city that is the most attractive for me could be different for you, okay? I have tried to approach this with these main 3 components. One is the city identity that is very much linked with the past. The history, age, reputation, climate, gastronomy, the virtual identity. Second is the city dynamism. This is the present, is how vibrant the city is, how competitive it is, how the city is treating the expats and the people. And third is the strategy. This is very much related to the future. How is the human capital, how is the smart city program on plan for the next years. So past, present, and future are giving us a good approach about the city magnetism. And finally, something very easy to calculate, that's the profitability of the city. And well, this is relatively easy, is how many services I get from the city, how much I had to pay for living in this particular city. That is the average wage, deducting all the taxes, and then finally the net purchase power. How many things can I buy with the money I have left in my pocket? So I have calculated this. I have done this for 140 cities worldwide and using more than 100 different indicators, and I have this approach. But again, it's not yet another ranking, because you can assign your scale of values to all these performance topics, and then you will obtain which city is better fitting your expectations and your demand. And to make this happen, I need your help. So if you type this or you scan this QR, you can answer a survey in just 20 seconds and give me what are your preferences in terms of the services you are obtaining from the city, and also what are your preferences in terms of history or past, present or future. What you prefer when you are considering a city attractive. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we are at the equator of the presentation. We still have 4 presentations to go, and we continue with Artur Serra.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Our approach, this is a project funded by the regional government of Catalonia, developed by my center, I2CAT Foundation. And the approach is not starting by technology, but starting by people. Normally, the model officially accepted is you start by technology, and then you study the impacts in the people of this technology. But we forget that technology is not produced by themselves, it's produced by people. And then with a smart strategy can question itself is, what is the people that develop this technology? It's only high research centers, or there are some other kind of centers, institutions that are producing. And what we are trying to, with this project, is to discover who is creating technology in your community. It doesn't matter if this is a city or region or nation. In order to prototype in this concept, universal innovation systems. We have in Europe universal systems like healthcare, education, but still no country, no city, no region has a universal innovation system. And this is the topic we will introduce you. Okay, we have this digital infrastructure, already universal, it's internet, now with the smart city will be Internet of Things, etc. But this is not the topic of my speech. Because what we are doing is connecting the new infrastructure to the old institutions, and that created a lot of frustration. The main frustration is why people is not participating in our wonderful smart technologies. And this is the question is solved if you focus on people and not in technology. But not in any kind of people. The people we are trying to focus is the people that are beginning to create this technology at different levels. We call that city as a collaboratory. Collaboratory is a term that William Wolf from the National Science Foundation started when all universities in America had access to the internet. And they imagined that beyond this infrastructure, it was possible to build a collaboration, a collaboratory of different laboratories in the States. And what we want to explore is if this metaphor can be applied to a city as a collaboratory. This is an official program of the regional government funded by European funds, by regional European funds. This is very important. The European Commission is giving to the regions the possibility to develop for the first time their own innovation strategies. And this is a good opportunity for cities and regions that we need to take profits. This is the model. On the left, you have the result of 2 world wars in Europe. We expand 2 world wars to understand that the city and the country cannot be divided in 2. That we need some universal system that benefit the whole populations, okay? In this system, you have highly specialized hospital, but also you have primary healthcare centers. This is the model to define what we say a universal innovation system. In all your cities, probably you have universities, high-level technological centers, but do you have these primary innovation centers? And this is our main approach. And we ended with this kind, the world of labs. 20 years ago was the world of nets, but now the nets are all ready, and we are looking for labs. Everyone is building labs. Labs is the new meme you will find in every of your cities or regions. Of all kinds. This is a jungle of labs. There are city labs, there are city fab labs, gov labs, maker spaces, even policy lab. There are governments that are building policy labs because they know to innovate, they know how to do that. This is a distributed network of people that you have, of course, in your cities, but maybe you are not yet discovered. The first point for the strategy of a smart city is discover your own innovation labs in your city, because for sure they will be a great discovery. Okay, what we are doing is making the state-of-the-art of the labs we have in the city and in the regions, and trying to offer this CAD Labs platform in order to cooperate. Living labs, fab labs, telecenters, citizen science centers, all can elaborate. Ateneus de Fabricación is a local fab labs. Citizen science, also this is a new move in the cities to develop this open science approach. And the question is, are you able to define a model of interlabbing? Because remember, internet is not a net, it's an internetworking. The more important question in the internet is not the net, it's the inter. Is the TCP/IP protocol that allows very diverse internet networking connect to themselves. And this is what we need. We need an interlabbing, some kind of platform or protocol or consensus that make together all these kind of labs. What we did is, in March 2007, beginning to collection of this kind of different labs that we agreed to collaborate. You have living labs in the area of health. You have also library living labs. The library, your public libraries will transform themselves in living labs too. There is a project now with 200 libraries in the region of Catalonia becoming living labs. You have Citizens Lab, but you have also Fab Labs. You have Ateneos de Fabricación. Innova FP is the vocational training living labs. Your vocational schools are looking for innovation. They want to innovate. They want to develop not just good workers, but more innovation projects with companies. And this is what we are beginning to develop, this idea. If we join all these primary innovation centers and we connect them with the intermediate and highly specialized research centers, maybe we can develop a real smart city and region. Remember, this is the strategy of a smart specialization that all the European regions must develop. Please look for that, because this is the money that, at least in Europe, can help you and your regions be innovative in creating this innovation, universal innovation system. Thank you very much.
And now it's time for l'Institut pour la Ville Durable. Je crois que je vais utiliser le micro.
Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the mayor of Dunkirk, the harbor city of northern France, well known thanks to the film released by Christopher Nolan last year. But today I'm also the chairman of an interesting French non-profit organization called Institut de la Ville Durable, IVD. IVD is dedicated to the promotion of sustainable cities through the development and presentation of skills and best practices, both in France and overseas. We are a national public-private partnership and are thrilled to present our new online hub to you today in its English version, Sustainable City by France. This hub is collaboratively run with an informal French state-initiated partner called Vivapolis. The online hub is a collaborative portal full of contributions from various sustainable city experts in urban planning, development and construction, both from local governments and national public bodies. Each contribution is grouped and put online so that everyone can benefit from the dissemination of best French practices and skills in sustainable cities. By launching Sustainable City by France, we have two main goals. The first one, promoting the know-how of French sustainable city stakeholders in any field, private as well as public, and facilitating the dissemination of best and innovating practices and experiences. We provide online resources and projects. With regard to resources, we use methodologies, handbooks, various surveys and research. In terms of projects, we try to feature the entire sustainable innovation field of work, whether it be digital or building-oriented, as well as other important projects on infrastructure and sustainable urban areas, some of which are referred to as eco-cities. Here is an example of a contribution you can find on the hub. Artelia is one of Europe's leading independent engineering firms. Artelia is a multidisciplinary consultancy, engineering and projects management group specializing in the sectors of building, construction, infrastructure, water industry and environment. The tropical island eco-city has a double purpose: to create a new urban area that represents both an urban lifestyle and a very ambitious sustainable design, and to stress the importance of tourism and leisure functions and innovative transport management. By clicking on this link, you can access to the native document. Our hub gives the opportunity to scrutinize projects and resources through different ways, to choose or to combine actors, territories, and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals endorsed by the United Nations, with a particular focus on SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. Our hub will put forward contributions that relate on the following SDG 11 themes. Sustainable City by France is free of charge and open for all contribution and consultation, particularly to those who are fond of discovering best French practices on numerous sustainable development issues. It is developed and updated daily, and Anne-Cécile Anger, who is on the French pavilion today, will be the hub's pilot and webmaster. You can see her. We hope that you will visit us online and keep in touch via our website. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we go with Maddie.
Thank you for having me. I'm Maddie Callis. I lead the City Possible network for Mastercard, and I apologize, I'm just going to not have slides. City Possible is a new initiative we launched on Monday with a press release that announced the 16 founding member cities. It's a network of city leaders sharing their best practices, their challenges, their successes, you know, what really the CTOs, CIOs, smart city directors, doesn't matter the position, are dealing with on a daily basis. And what Mastercard is aiming to do through City Possible is bring together the private sector to work with the cities to help develop solutions rather than have look at how many amazing things are all around this hall. Don't you want to do everything? I mean, there's a lot of things, but it's budget, it's time, it's efficiency, all of these. If we can help the cities have more capability and bandwidth to do more by creating solutions that they help design, that are built for you, bringing the feedback into the design process, that's the goal of City Possible, is to help it be replicated across the network and so that you can implement things more quickly. I come from the public sector. I joined Mastercard about 1.5 years ago to do this, and I kind of pinch myself every day that I have this job that takes me to cities around the globe to help them serve their citizens better. It's a true blessing that I no longer am sitting on the side of the table asking for resources and funds to do things, but to create this network that can service all the different cities. Sorry. And, it's the drone, it's not my voice. I apologize, I got thrown off there just for a second. But as we bring more cities into the network, how can we replicate what those that are doing well, whether it's Kansas City, San Diego, Prague, and help them share it with others so more people can use the technology. If you're interested and would like to learn more, please stop by our booth. We're excited that we're having our first annual City Possible convening, bringing together about 25 cities tomorrow alongside the corporate industry partners we have, which are Microsoft Here Technologies and Idemia, to discuss what the network will be doing in 2019. I know high on the agenda are data, public and private data sharing. How can cities use data in decision making? How do you combine it? And maybe even getting into the nitty gritty a little bit about when you combine it, where does it sit, whose cloud does it live in, who has access to what. Mastercard, we have quite a business built on our data analytics, so we're happy to share our expertise. Mobility services, how can you get from A to B and combine that in the quickest way possible and the most efficient for the actual citizen and the user. And then we're hoping that those cities that are in the room with us will actually identify what we should be talking about rather than us leading the conversation. So we're excited to get started. I know for next year that we have what we're hosting accelerators, which are 2-day learning experiences, and partnering with some of the leading networks already. City Possible is a home to things that are happening in the industry that are good. We don't want to compete. We want to bring it all together and just make it simpler to navigate. rather than, you have an invitation to the Smart City Expo in Barcelona, in Athens, in New York, how can we create something that allows it to be better for all? That's really the main goal. I think if you have a chance to go and look at our booth, there's a lot more on it there, and we're very excited to start this journey with you all.
Thank you. At last but not least, the city of Toronto.
Oh, I am the whole city of Toronto. No, I have a little clicker there. So, all right. First test. Good afternoon. So I'm one of the few people that's probably not going to talk about technology. Just using, can you hear me okay? I'm okay. Usually I just talk without the microphone and I'm usually fine. It comes from many years of law enforcement. That's my background. So big surprise, I'm standing here as a regulator and I like the law. So, but where it got interesting was where the regulation and innovation collided. And my example, very brief, has to do with Uber. So I love this picture. The top left is about 1977, the city of Toronto. Last year, it was the other picture is a photo taken last year by one of my colleagues from our Center Island. And it amazes me at the amount of difference there is in our city skyline, and it's still continuing to be built. I also use this sometimes to reference, it seems like the systems that we're using today were pretty much put in place in 1977. A few people have that problem? Yes. The old legacy stuff to deal with. Very quickly, my big challenge or my big intervention with innovation happened when Uber launched their UberX private ride-sharing service in Toronto in September of 2014. Everybody knows Uber. Everybody's sick of talking about Uber. No, not yet. So it was 2 years of back and forth. You're out, you're in, you're out, you're in. Mostly me saying you're out, and then our mayor saying they're in, and then me figuring it out. But actually, it wasn't even that. It was the amount of uptake in an incredibly fast amount of time for our public, and how quickly they adapted to having this type of a service available to them to move around our city. So it's interesting. I have all these little activities that happened for 2 years. In 2016, we actually created our regulation, and for the last 2 years, it's kind of been okay. The sky has not fallen. Now, mind you, we're into a review again, but so I guess for me and for the way we're moving forward, it really became not if, but how. And the struggle for us, and quite often when we talk about innovation, it seems to be that regulation gets in the way. And we can't be without regulation, but I think there needs to be a reasonable balance. Balance enough where we have sufficient regulation to support the public, to make sure that our responsibility to the public is taken care of, at the same time making space for innovation to occur in our city so our public, our citizens can benefit from it. So, this is where we got to that point, and hopefully I think we struck the right balance. And when I looked at how are we going to approach this, not unlike our legacy systems, we had our legacy way of thinking. And, while Uber says they're a technology company, the technology was really the last piece of concern for us. The most important thing for us in the city of Toronto truly was the leadership that was shown by our mayor when we came through the city council process and said, Uber is probably here to stay, and here's how we can regulate them in a reasonable way, at the same time allow taxis, so we're open for business and we're open for innovation. And I think that was a very important message. That was not an easy message. For those of you who are still in cities contending with what to do about Uber, I've been down that road and I feel for you. And hopefully there's a bar open later and we can all commiserate about it. But truly, the leadership to do things differently, the leadership to drive change, the ability to say it doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be both, and find a balance. And at the core of it all was, what did the public want? It wasn't what the city wanted per se. It wasn't what the taxi industry wanted. It was, what does our public, what do our citizens want from us? And when we sat back and looked at the amount of uptake, the amount of interest, the just tidal wave of interest in using this service, we recognized that we needed to regulate it. We needed to make it safer so that people could enjoy it. So really putting people at the center of this in the way we crafted regulation was critical to us. So when I think forward 20 years from now and we see, the typical things around smart city, that's why we're here. And what struck me yesterday was I always see these depictions of smart city with a city. So I, of course, put the picture of my city and our smart energy and being connected. And then I drilled back to why did we do what we did the first place? And really, is it about people? So putting people at the center of what we do in our smart city. And you know what? When you're dealing with people and their various needs, some of them which are very simple. It's not technology. It's access to food. It's health. It's being connected in their communities. And I thought, that's who we need to keep in the middle of our smart city conversations. It's very messy. It's very colorful. But I think it's very rewarding. And that is it.
Thank you very much. We don't have much time left, but now would be the time to have 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes of questions and answer. So I wanted to know if anybody wants to raise a question. No? Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank all of you, and maybe I would like to raise one short question. You have explained many solutions, many projects, or how to deal with governance and how to deal especially with the digitalization of public administration and public sector. I know that in 5 minutes is too short to explain the shadows and the challenges, but I think that it would be useful if you could also share with the other people what were the challenges you have to overcome. What did you found that didn't work? Or if you have any trick for anybody that wants to implement something very similar. So, who wants to start?
You still have my fingerprints on the microphone. I would just say be open to thinking differently. And do not go with the status quo. The status quo might be fine, but I just think we need to challenge ourselves and ask ourselves, are there other ways to do what we're doing or different ways to approach the problem? And even when you're settled in on a decision, like I was initially with Uber and I said they're out, I learned, I got out to things like this, found out what was going on, and that really informed how I was going to do things moving forward. So inform, educate, network, and be open to thinking differently. That's what I would suggest.
I think I'd add, if there's a will, there's a way. One of our partners says that the relationship between technology and the citizen is coming down to the city and the local official. It's not happening at the state or the federal level. So the city officials are really delivering the service. So finding that advocate, whether in your city or the evangelist for using technology, is so important. I have over 150 MOUs out with cities around the world. And yes, sometimes it's really hard to get that done, the nitty-gritty details, but just the dedication and perseverance.
Artur?
Well, I see we are in the moment where many cities are embracing the shift from Smart Cities 1.0 into Smart Cities 2.0. In Smart City 1.0, we were gathering data from the IoT wall, from all the sensors we are placing in the city. Now, with all this data, we need to serve the citizens. So the idea is to place the citizen again in the center of the city, and use all this massive amount of data we have from the IoT wall, from the sensors, from the citizens, from the social networks to serve the citizens with new applications based on AI, based on the latest computing technologies. Okay?
Yes, it's not technology and the citizens is the technology. The people is not in the center, the people is first. Technology comes from the people. It's not the center, it's the first. And discover your technology equal people in your city.
We have 30 seconds for one last word.
One last word. I think that the main challenges, well, the technological, I have told them in the presentation, but I think that there is this cultural change problem because the technology is a commodity. It's already developed in different ways, so you have to change the way people use that technology. And then also we have the problem with the law and innovation, but this requires a balance, so it was briefly presented before, so I think those are the main problems.
Well, thank you for sharing, thank you for listening, and see you soon.